Ding, ding, ding. Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Of course, if you didn't get the ding, ding, ding joke, it's because Sterling Shepard just brawled with Browns cornerback Troy Hill. And interesting turn of events there. Nobody really anticipates those type of fights. Both coaches, Stefanski and Joe Judge, tried to keep their teams at bay, tried to keep things a little bit lighter. You don't want to be getting into fights, obviously, in joint practices, but hey, it was about a couple of seconds left, and Troy Hill started throwing haymakers at Sterling Shepard. And if you saw the picture, pretty badass. Literally, Sterling Shepard using some Creed moments right there, dodging, weaving. I think he got a couple punches in there of himself, but for the most part, a little bit of energy spilling over into a little fight there. I think there was a couple hits on Sterling Shepard throughout the practice that led to this little trash talking here and there. But at the end of the day, these things are expected during fights and during training camp and joint practices and whatnot. The energy is flowing. But Anthony, before we dive into the takeaways from today and some of the good and bad things that we did see, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing real good, checking out the Giants-Browns joint practices and seeing that little dramatic ending there with Sterling Shepard and Troy Hill. I gotta say, shout out to Joshua Gunter, the guy that took the pictures, because those pictures are elite. The one of Shep dodging, the one of Shep squaring up with his fist, ready to knock Troy Hill's lights out. Like, those pictures are sick. Shout out to Joshua Gunter, that's the guy who took them. And that was pretty exciting to watch. Also, shout out to John Ross. Thank you to him for pulling Sterling Shepard out of there, because it could have gotten a lot uglier, and it also could have been something that potentially got someone hurt or injured or fined. But John Ross did do his thing over there. But for the most part, the rest of the team kind of tried to stay out of it, which I guess is a good thing. You don't want to make that a massive brawl like the one that the Giants had a few weeks ago. If they were to have a massive brawl with the Browns rather than just with themselves, would have been horrible optics for the team, for both teams, really. It would have been really gross, and I think that the Giants have been under enough criticism for just about nothing this offseason anyway, so we don't need something that actually warrants criticism here. But yeah, man, that was exciting. I'm excited. Preseason game right around the corner, 2 days away. Giants, Browns, 7 p.m. on Sunday. You know that we'll be covering it, and I'm excited to do so. Plus, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more starters play this week. Daniel Jones will be out there, ready to see him get to work for the first time this year. Going to be exciting as we ramp up here from week 2 of the preseason all the way into the regular season in just a few weeks.
Is it bad that you mentioned John Ross kind of helping Sterling Shepard there, like hauling him out of this fight? Is it bad that I'm like, John Ross, like, don't get injured trying to, like, help Sterling Shepard, like, pick him up? I'm, like, kind of worried about it just because he has such an injury history. But, this fight, it happens at the end of the day. But what we really want to talk about is some of the positives of this training camp session, this joint practice. And I think that we saw some really good positives from a couple different players. Right off the top of my head, Daniel Jones had a great day. And I've only been hearing positive things regarding Daniel Jones the past couple days. That's a really good thing because I know he started out camp a little uneasy, a little uncomfortable, some incompletions, some interceptions here and there. But going up against a pretty solid Browns team, it's nice to see that he's been performing well. He's been throwing the ball nice. I saw that one toss to Sterling Shepard in the back of the end zone. He had a couple nice completions to Evan Ingram and Darius Slayton, and all three of those receivers, for the most part, Shepard has been absolutely eating people alive lately. Darius Slayton has been killing it. There was one release that he had. It was a jab step inside. He shakes and bakes, goes to the outside, and it was a beautiful release, and he ends up toe dragging with a nice little touchdown catch there. Some people say he might have pushed off, but it was so slight, I don't think they would ever call that. Then you have Evan Ingram, who as well has some nice catches, especially up those seam routes, going to push in the field vertically, which is what we want to see more from Evan Ingram moving forward. We don't want to see him as that short ball, kind of sitting down, hook route, middle of the field receiver, because he cannot catch those fastballs. He needs to be running downfield. He needs to have time to corral the football. I think he's getting a little bit better than that. Hopefully the Giants can use him in those ways to kind of alleviate those issues that he's had in the past. But defensively, we're looking at a couple of really good players that I think have really made names for themselves lately, right? Darius Williams, another guy who stood out today in practice, almost had an interception. Trent Harris, a pretty much no-name pass rusher has really emerged and burst onto the scene. His name has been popping up a lot lately, taking advantage of the Browns' offensive line. Azeez Ojulari had a nice play today, getting into the backfield and chasing down Baker Mayfield. He's been a lot more active recently as well. And then Leonard Williams, of course, is beating the crap out of opposing offensive lines. He's an absolute stud. We know that this Giants defensive front is phenomenal for the most part in terms of all the talent that they do have, just a matter of continuity and bringing it together in chemistry. But even a Browns reporter was saying the Giants pass rush is no joke. They look pretty great out there, Anthony. When you're looking at these guys offensively, defensively, is there anyone that's been standing out to you specifically?
Yeah, Trent Harris is obviously standing out. He stood out to me on paper when I saw that he was ahead of Afadio Denabo on the Giants' first unofficial depth chart. That was something that I took note of, and I said, okay, I'm going to keep a close eye on him. If he plays well, or at least continues to, I'm going to have to do a video on him, and so I am going to be doing a video on him, so stay tuned to that. Tony's Takes episode on the training camp standouts. The next one's going to be on Trent Harris. Will be coming out in the coming days, so if you're not exactly sure who Trent Harris is, I'm going to provide you with all of the background info on him and really tell you who this player is. But I've also been impressed by Azeez Ojulari. I saw him get in the backfield and chase Baker Mayfield around today during the joint practices. That was pretty cool to see. As you mentioned, Darius Williams did a pretty good job. I saw Lorenzo Carter make some plays. And of course, I saw Evan Ingram go down the seam. You mentioned that, Alex. I thought that was really good to see that the Giants are using him as more of a vertical threat than they have in the past. I feel like we rarely saw him run routes down the seam last season, but I think we're going to see him run those quite a lot more this upcoming season, especially once Kyle Rudolph returns to the lineup, which who knows when that will be, but hopefully it's soon. Once he does return to the lineup, he'll be that underneath tight end, old reliable down there, and then I think that's going to be able to unlock Evan Ingram going deep downfield.
Yeah, and I think that during the red zone drills is what we really saw some of the Giants players really maximize their potential. We saw Evan Ingram on the move, cutting across the middle of the field on a drag route. Anthony, we love those drag routes with the tight ends, especially guys as athletic as Evan Ingram. He dragged across the line of scrimmage against a linebacker and really just took advantage. He was too fast and too quick for him, and Daniel Jones threw an easy touchdown pass. We saw another one to Sterling Shepard, who caught one in the end zone. This is a team that has a lot of weapons. Even Shep said after practice, we're missing some of our best guns, some of our best weapons here in Kenny Galladay, Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney. And one thing that really stood out that some of the reporters were hitting on was the Giants were really using a lot of wide receiver screens. And I actually like that a lot because Shepard and Kadarius Toney are two guys who can create a lot out of nothing. Even Saquon Barkley, getting him into open space. You guys all remember that screen pass against the Eagles where he broke like 17 tackles and almost took it to the house. This is an opportunity for the Giants to really utilize their talent and some of their more shifty players to, take advantage of the open field. And when you're running a lot of wide receiver screens, you're getting these guys into space, it forces defenses to play closer to the line of scrimmage, right? You're forcing corners to play more press man coverage, because if you have a guy playing off-ball man coverage, he's playing, they're playing cover 3, and he's off-ball, and he has to drop back, and you're giving him all this space. Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, feast, Kenny Galladay. Just take what the defense is giving you. So if you're having guys and you're forcing them to play more man coverage because of that threat of the wide receiver screen, it allows some of your better route runners, especially guys like Darius Slayton, who has that speed, to really beat them on the outside release, get downfield, and have a shot at a bigger play. So I think this is going to be what's baked into this offense with Daniel Jones specifically, really analyzing the field, seeing, okay, they're playing press man coverage, or we have a wide receiver screen dialed up. Let's audible to a go route with Darius Slayton on the opposite side of the field or at that same spot. They can really start to decipher and create confusion for defenses and really take advantage of that, especially with so many playmakers, Anthony. I know you're a component of the wide receiver screen as well. Do you think this is something the Giants should be using more of?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that Sterling Shepard is actually great after the catch, and of course in any small compact areas of the field, I think he does a really good job just being shifty and breaking tackles, making guys miss. And then of course he has great ball carrier vision. I do think that the halfback screen, the running back screen, is something that the Giants are going to want to utilize a whole lot more. Once Saquon Barkley returns to the lineup, they really like to use that in the past with Saquon, but of course once he was injured, and they did use it with Saquon in weeks 1 and 2. I know there was one notable play, 20-plus yard gain with Saquon on a halfback screen in week 1 of last season. But once he went down with an injury, we barely saw that play get utilized by the Giants offense, just due to the fact that Wayne Gallman, Alfred Morris, these guys were not receiving halfbacks. The Giants just didn't really have one on the roster that was competent after Saquon Barkley went down with an injury, at least in the receiving game. So I think you're going to see a whole lot more of that. And then, of course, once Kadarius Toney does return to the team, don't know what's going on there. We still don't know. It's still an undisclosed injury. We have some things that we're not speculating about. Hate to speculate about injuries, but I really wish the Giants would give us an update. But once he does return to the lineup, of course, Kadarius Toney is an elite after-the-catch threat. Like, he forced a missed tackle on, 35% of his touches in college. Like, the guy just takes ankles. He is a human joystick, and I am excited to see what he can do when he does return to the lineup for the Giants. I'm not sure when that will be. I honestly, at this point, am not confident we're going to see him play in the preseason at all. He's already been declared out for this Sunday's game. I'm hoping that we see him next week against the New England Patriots, but at this point, it seems more likely that we see him in the regular season. Really hoping that he's ready for week 1. Don't know what the injury is again, but just hoping that it's nothing serious that keeps him sidelined in the regular season.
Yeah, I just want to see him get some reps during that last preseason game, because at the end of the day, like, what is he really getting? He's probably getting maybe one drive, one series of plays, maybe 6 plays maximum before they pull him out of the game anyway. What is that really going to do for him? You might as well just make sure he's 100% healthy, ease him into the scheme. But I think this next week will give him an opportunity to really ramp things up. Maybe we'll see him really partake in more team, like 11-on-11, 7v7s against New England next week in the joint practices there. So this is a good opportunity for the Giants to take it easy with him. Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay were both, doing light jogs, light sprints, and including John Ross as well. So they're working their way back slowly but surely. COVID affects everybody differently, so I imagine Kadarius Toney is doing his best. I haven't heard anything else from him, since all the negativity of him, missing practice. Someone in his family was ill and he had to go visit them. So ever since that stuff, he's been good as gold. You know what I mean? I haven't heard anything bad about him. He's been good in the classroom. He's working his way back. That's all we can hope. At the end of the day, reality is, none of these are significant season-ending injuries, right? Like, go look at the Jets right now. They just lost Carl Lawson, their best player, arguably. Like, that's what you should be scared about if you're the Giants. As long as Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay and John Ross are just working their way back and they're going to be ready for week 1, they're not out for the season. They're just working their way back. I'm totally fine with that as long as it's not season ending, because training camp scares the freaking crap out of me. Training camp, joint practices, preseason, every single freaking year there's a big injury, whether it be Cody Core, whether it be Sterling Shepard, whether it be Odell Beckham Jr. Every single year there's somebody that goes down. And this year the Jets saw Carl Lawson go down. I guarantee you another guy will go down too. That's a big name. The Giants, as long as these guys are working their way back, they're not overdoing it, I'm fine with it. One series in a preseason game is not the end-all, be-all of Kadarius Toney's career. You know what I mean? Let him ease into it. I'm not that concerned about him right now. At the end of the day, though, I would like to see him get some more reps, really ramp it up and start to show us some stuff and give us some optimism that he'll be ready to be an influential factor come week 1, because otherwise, they might have to ease him in a little bit slower. But, Anthony, I want to talk about the defense really quickly, because I really like what I've been seeing from Azeez Ojulari. And today he had a sack. He was all over the place, really. And I think for the most part, this is a player who, took on Jedrick Wills today, was one of the best offensive tackles in the league last year as a rookie. He got a sack against Jedrick Wills, and he forced a holding penalty against him. Ojulari, while he might not be the most refined run stopper to start his career, he can absolutely be a very nice pass rushing player that contributes heavily. And I think he's going to be a decent run stopper as well as he gets more reps. But I think for the most part, his biggest application is going to be as a pass rusher and really helping generate more of that. And they're going to really rely on those big interior guys like Danny Shelton, like the Austin Johnsons, Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrences of the world to seal the middle, those inside zones, those inside gaps, and have guys like Blake Martinez fill the C gaps and whatnot and help those outside linebackers. Another guy who's been standing out, Lorenzo Carter. At this point in the season, in the offseason rather, who do you see as those starting outside linebackers? Is it the Azeez Ojulari and Lorenzo Carter show, or do you think Trent Harris is working his way in there? It really is a toss-up at this point.
Yeah, Trent Harris is definitely working his way in. I think he'll get at least some playing time in the regular season. I know that he got at least a little bit last year. He did have a sack on Carson Wentz in that home game. I believe it was week 10. That's something that, again, I think a lot of people forgot about. They forgot that Trent Harris existed, but he is a pretty decent player. I do think he makes a final roster and he will earn some snaps. But of course, I've also seen that O'Shane Ximines has been having a good camp when he's out there, when he's practicing, and when he's healthy. So I think, your standard guys of Lorenzo, O'Shane, and now, of course, with Azeez Ojulari on the lineup and already playing impressively, I think you're going to see him play as well quite a bit. I think that's going to be your main 3 rotation there. But, of course, on pass rushing downs, you can see them get creative. You can see a Trent Harris sneak his way into the lineup. You can see different players. I know we've seen plays where Leonard Williams is playing edge rusher. We've seen plays where Blake Martinez plays edge rusher. So, but mainly for your outside linebackers, I'm assuming Lorenzo Carter, if he's fully healthy, will be the starting outside linebacker along with O'Shane Ximines, and Azeez Ojulari is going to be worked into the lineup as often as they feel they can. But one thing that I'll say about Azeez Ojulari is he did have a phenomenal run-stuffing play in the Week 1 preseason game, and this is something that I actually wasn't super surprised about because there are clips that I even pulled in my film breakdown on him before the Giants ever drafted him, and I said this guy is actually a pretty underrated run defender. No, it's not his strong suit, but he is pretty good against the run, and he is a phenomenal pass rusher. So while I do think day one, his impact will be not strictly as a pass rusher, but far more as a pass rusher than a run stuffer, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with his run stuffing abilities because he is a pretty good player in that regard.
And if he does end up becoming an average run stopper, week 1 or even week 3, he's going to be the starter there on out. He will be getting the majority of reps. And I think that the impact that Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence has is going to help him grow a lot more because they just soak in so many double teams. It really allows him to take 1v1s against the offensive tackles. Really nice reps and sets there. So I really hope to see that, he takes that step forward. But another good couple of players today. Andrew Thomas has been kicking ass. Nick Gates kicking ass. I saw Will Hernandez had a couple nice reps. But for the most part, Andrew Thomas, that's the guy who's really been stepping up. Shane Lemieux got, beat around a little bit. They put Ted Larson in there as the starting left guard for a little while. But really, man, it's that left tackle spot. Daniel Jones' blind side, that's the most important spot on the offensive line. To see Andrew Thomas taking that step forward is so big, is so tremendous for this offense. It's going to help Daniel Jones a ton to feel comfortable that there's not somebody coming from behind him that's going to hit him in the back of the head and he's going to jar the football loose. This is a big development for the Giants offense in this quarterback position. We've had Eric Flowers, the turnstile. We've had Bobby Hart at right tackle. We've had Andrew Thomas last year. We've had Nate Solder when he was not very good that one season. We've had a lot of fluctuation at this left tackle spot, and I think it's finally time we have a good player there. And I think Andrew Thomas is more than capable of being that, Anthony. Are you expecting to see him kind of feature and show us a little bit more in this second preseason game?
Yeah, actually, the number one position that I'm excited to watch play in week 2 of the preseason is the offensive line. I just want to see them all play as a whole. I was really impressed with the way that they played in week 1, and I'm excited to see them continue to develop in week 2. Not only Andrew Thomas, but also Will Hernandez. He really popped off in the week 1 game. He really stood out to me, especially as a pulling guard in run blocking situations. Super impressed with what Will Hernandez did there. And then, of course, we did see some struggles from Matt Parrott. I heard that he was struggling once again today at practice, but I'm still confident in Matt Parrott. I hope I didn't jinx him when I gave him such a strong vote of confidence this offseason. I do think that he will turn around. I think he's still probably working his way back from that back injury, and it might be causing him to be a little stiff in pass pro or wherever, and so maybe that's just what's causing him to not play up to his standard. But I do think he'll turn around to be a good player. And of course, like I said, Will Hernandez, super impressed with him. Hoping that Shane Lemieux can get healthy enough to play at some point in the preseason so we can see if he has, developed and improved as a player from year 1 to year 2. I'm sure he has, but I'd like to see it on the field in the preseason before we get to the regular season, assuming that he will continue to be the starter and will be healthy for the regular season. And then, of course, Nikki Gates, I saw a really nice rep from him today. I thought that was really nice to see. He was going up against a big defensive tackle. Just kind of stood his ground really well in pass protection. And that's something that I'm really excited by because Nick Gates, first half of the year last season, sucked in pass protection. By the end of the year, second half of the year, he was a lot better and improved week to week to week. He just got really good by the end of the year. And so it's good to see him continuing to build on that, having some good pass protection reps right now in the joint training camp practices. So very excited by the first string offensive line. Second and third string, don't really want to talk about it because I'm very scared of it. But the first string, I'm really excited by. I think that they've actually developed quite a bit. I think Rob Sale has a lot to do with that, and I'm excited to see how they play in a little bit more playing time. They only got 2 drives in week 1. I think they'll probably get, at least 4 to 5 in week 2 of the preseason, maybe even more. We'll see, but I'm really excited to see that, and I can't wait to actually see this offensive line get to work against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday.
Yeah, I think Nick Gates is absolutely one of our best offensive linemen at this point. The resets that he was providing in that one clip that you're mentioning right now, he resets so nicely, and he keeps his hands inside on the chest plate of the defensive tackle, and he just stalemates him, man. Like, the defender's always going to have leverage, right? Because, like, the offensive lineman can only go back so far, especially 1v1, and those DTs are always, for the most part, bigger than a center or a guard, those big defensive tackles. So, he's already at a disadvantage. He only has so much room he can work with, and he's got to use perfect fundamentals and form to really stop him in his tracks, and he did it with flying colors. If you haven't seen it, it's on my Twitter. I posted it. It's a tremendous video, and it really shows his strength, too, and his ability to leverage from his lower half, but also use his hand placement to give him that extra bit of strength and power to push him back. So really great reps from Nick Gates, Andrew Thomas. There's a couple of individual offensive linemen that have been standing out, guys. But that's pretty much it for this training camp period. The takeaways, for the most part, the big ones. Obviously, more content to come this weekend. We have a second preseason game against Cleveland on Sunday night, and we'll be covering that for you guys. I'll be posting highlight videos throughout, just in case you are unable to watch it. I have you covered, so make sure to follow along my Twitter feed during that game. But make sure to subscribe below on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. As always, Giants family, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.